We're back here on the Eye Open Media Sports Podcast. We have a former professional boxer who competed from 2000 to 2012. This former champion actually fought at middleweight and super middleweight in his career. He was a strong-willed, steady fighter that won the unified WBC, WBO, Ring Magazine, and lineal middleweight titles by defeating Jermaine Taylor in 2007. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to welcome Kelly the Ghost Pavlik to the Eye Open Media Sports Podcast. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on with us. So how's everything going with you? First off, let me ask this: you and your family with the COVID-19. How have you guys been dealing with it? Do you have any personal? Do you know anybody that has COVID or have experienced it?
Yeah, it's one of them touchy things, I guess, because I'm caught in the middle. I'm a gym owner, actually in the process of opening another gym, and
Awesome.
in the process of a boxing gym with a charitable organization. So, I'm really like going, and I'm a lot of my stuff's with gyms, and we all know gyms are breeding grounds for bacteria and viruses, and So, as being a gym owner, it sucks. Like when we had the mandatory shutdown, you don't like that. You don't want to have to shut down your business, but same time as COVID, it's real. You see a lot of people talking, saying like, "Oh, well, it's a hype thing," and I literally lost a buddy to it. Granted, he had a underlying health issue, but there was people I know that were on a ventilator who were actually in good health and my age, 38, 39 years old. So I think it's something that you have to take serious. And it's just really tough all around. But we did the quarantine. We were really strict. I'm here at the gym now, and my hands are pretty much, I'm peeling the skin off from all the, moisturizing, alcohol, every type of cleaner you could think of. Spray my phone with the detergents and just to try to stay as clean as I can. So, but as families, I'm fortunate though. We've been very fortunate. We're doing what on our part, what we're supposed to do. So just hope everybody, the same way everybody's well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Sorry to hear about your friend too that suffered from that.
Yeah, it's hard. Young kid, man, only 39.
Wow.
I call him young kid. 39, I think is still young. At least I hope. So
it is.
Yeah, but
yeah. So tell me a little bit. Tell us about growing up in Youngstown, Ohio, for the viewers that aren't aware of it.
Okay. Youngstown is a blue collar area, especially during my childhood, coming up in the 80s. Right around the 80s when a lot of the steel mills shut down and closed out. But Youngstown stayed, a hard working area. It was, people. It wasn't like the big city or the area where there was a lot of other work outside of industrial and steel mills. So people had to really go out and grind. Construction jobs, whether it be working somewhere early and then picking up a second job. So that was Youngstown. Now it's kind of a little bit of the same, but I don't want to say people got lazy. I just think it's more lack of jobs, and a lot of when the steel mills closed, a lot of stuff left the area. So it's still a cruddy, tough area. The people that are in Youngstown they still have that work ethic, to go out and find what they can. But it was a great area, great for athletes. I mean, football, I think, what was it, 2 years ago, I seen something per capita. Youngstown, Ohio puts out, the most NFL players. I think Cincinnati and Akron weren't far behind. So it's just a tough area. Boxing, we've had 5 world champions for such a small area. And you're talking about in a period of 38 years now, but go back 13 years ago was 20 some years. You had 5 champions in that period of time,
right,
from a small city. So it's tough. It's a tough area. People, they're hard workers, and that's where I can pretty much what I can say right now.
Okay. Now are you still living in Youngstown?
I'm right outside of Youngstown, and I own a gym outside of that. outside that part of Youngstown. It's my personal trainer had a gym. He got sick and I ended up buying it off him and doing a lot of work to it. And I'm in the process of opening a boxing gym right in Youngstown, which is going to be nice. It's going to be free for kids under 18.
Okay.
So I really want to help the youth program in the city
Nice.
and even the surrounding city. So, you don't have to just be from the city to come there. It's any kid under 18. And I think that that'd be really good for the sport of boxing in the area again, too. But also
Right.
give these kids structure. I really want to work on with this. It's not happening yet. So I guess with this nonprofit charitable organization, you got to be careful how you word it. But
Right.
we're in the process of hopefully through my 501c3 where we could set up scholarships because
Awesome.
in boxing there's not. You have collegiate, but it's really small. I mean, it's a really small thing that goes on. And you had Marquette, Michigan. I'm not quite sure how big Marquette, Michigan is with the boxing still. I know it was huge back in the day, especially with like El
Right.
Mitchell. So I think
Yes.
that'd be something that's like really good for these kids. Give them a chance for like a scholarship. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, have like trades. Excuse me. Um, what else? Like have not motivational speakers, but guys come in and speak to the kids, and some that may have gotten a little bit of trouble, but like turn it around. Just an option for these kids where they wouldn't have that. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing that I really want out of it. Of course, I want to make it a very good boxing gym and a gym that where we go travel, people know we're coming to fight, but also
Right.
just to give these kids, because not every kid's going to turn pro in boxing, and not every kid, if they do, not every kid's going to make 50 or 100 grand in their career, so this is an opportunity to make more outside of boxing.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And now you mentioned your coach. You're speaking of Jack Lowe.
No, I would be doing this.
No, no. You said that he got sick and you got what is it the Southside Boxing Club that you have?
Yes. No, I don't think he got sick. I didn't mention him on that, but he did move to gym.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the gym that you're referring to, the Southside Boxing Club.
Yeah, but I'll be opening my own. I'm sorry. I'll be okay. So no, I know what you're saying now. So the
Yeah.
strength and conditioning gym, my strength and conditioning coach that I had when I was
Yes.
fighting, he has a fitness gym, outside of Youngstown, and I bought that off of him. He got sick. He moved to California. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, and
Okay.
I bought that off of him and fixed it all up. And yeah, Jack still he's doing good. He still has Southside Boxing Club.
Oh,
So
okay. Awesome. Awesome. So you guys are you're just expanding. You're
yeah,
opening a different.
it's something that I wanted to do. I'm was very fortunate in my career to have you know certain people real close to me that where I was able to retire at 30 years old and not have
Yes.
to fight no more and be able to do the things that I'm doing now. Like
Right.
investments and gyms and stuff that I like doing, and boxing. What a boxing gym is another big part. Boxing was my life. Um, so I do want to do. I want to train fighters.
Yes.
Jack still do his thing. I want to be far enough away where he don't think that I'm competing with him or anything like that. But I
Right.
think overall, I just think Youngstown back in the day used to have boxing gyms everywhere. So it's good for everybody. It's good for all the gyms when you have that amount of competition because you don't have to travel to Akron or Cleveland or even Columbus to get sparring. You
Right.
have in-house sparring or a couple blocks away you got sparring, and it just makes the program better and it makes it better for that area with boxing. And I think that's what it could help revive boxing in the area.
Right. Right. And like you said, you mentioned earlier, Youngstown has a very good tradition for such a small area in boxing. I mean, I remember watching Ray Boom Boom Mancini in the '80s, and then went on to you the Ghost later on.
Yeah,
So what?
sure. We had Harry
Yeah.
Roya, you had Jeff Lampkin at light heavyweight, you had
Right.
Greg the Flea Richardson, who was a WBC champ, I believe
Yeah.
at what was it, bantamweight. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
some good
So
fighters.
Nice tradition out there. So it's good that you're continuing that on. Now, growing up, Kelly, what other sports did you play?
I was I was involved in football,
Okay.
um, baseball. I played around with basketball a little bit, but football I really liked. I was that contact type kid, and
What position did you play?
I went from running back. Well, on offense, I was either at receiver or running back, and then
Okay.
on defense, I was early on young youth pee wee. I was linebacker. Then towards the end of like 11 and 12 years old, they put me at cornerback. So,
Okay.
um, and I played those, and I was just a tough kid at that part. So, and then right around 11 years old is when I started boxing. I mean, I went to the gym a little bit at 9 and 10, but my first fight it was 93, and I was 11 years old. And so I really started getting into boxing too. I loved it. I did martial arts before all that, and
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
and before, and not to be mean, I'm not knocking martial arts, but I took the standard, karate,
Yes.
and it just wasn't enough. It's actually a funny story. It wasn't enough contact in it. First of all, that was the biggest thing.
Right.
And second of all, when they told my dad how much it cost for like a gi and belt, we were like, "All right, we ain't doing that unless
Right.
unless I could wear the street clothes and just put a belt around me."
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy expensive. It really was. I didn't know how crazy that gets. So yeah, that was kind of the end of the karate part, and then I started boxing, and then football. Right at the end of 12 years old, I quit football, but I stayed playing baseball. I was a catcher, and I played baseball up to about 17. Actually, right when I signed the contract with Top Rank, I quit.
Oh, wow. So you really is were there did you have any feelings of going to the majors?
No, no, and I'm still like a realistic with things. I do it with my son. Like he loves basketball, and I love the
Yes.
fact that he loves it, and I love going out and shooting hoops with him and everything. And he's like, "So, Dad, and mind you, I'm like a tad under 6'2", and
Yeah.
so I would be probably a point guard, and actually a pretty short point guard for today's standard."
That's true.
And,
That's true.
and he's like, "You think I can make it to the NBA?" And I said, "Dude, it's like unless you get 6'8", I go, or you're super super athletic, I
Right.
go, just keep practicing, man. And I didn't tell him no. So,
Right.
and I go, if you get 6'8", 6'9", then we got some other issues. I gotta have to talk about your mom, with your mom. So, but yeah, she's 5'3", I'm 6'1" and a half.
Oh, okay.
But so basketball, I like that too. But I knew, just like I was telling him, but baseball, I knew I was good, but living in Ohio, especially at that time, there really, I mean, you had indoor facilities and stuff like that, but it
Right.
was, and even indoor. So I used to say, like, unless you're really from like Florida, Texas, areas like that where you can really play all year long because of the weather and be
Yes.
out there and competing with the real life pitches and real life plays at first base and stuff like that. It's hard. It really is. You're kind of behind a little bit.
Yes. 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 Now you're one of three boys, right?
Yes.
And you got two older brothers, what, Mike and Ricky, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Yes. How are they doing?
Michael was a phenomenal. Michael played all the sports. Michael was a football in high school. He played. Michael was shorter, 5'10", and was able to touch the rim. I was 6'1" and a quarter, and I had a hard time getting the rim. So, the animosity was a little strong there. He was a good athlete all around. My brother Ricky
Yeah.
was a pretty good athlete. Ricky was a little more like me. He just liked to, go and hit people. And
Right.
they boxed. Never, my brother Michael never fought. My brother Ricky had, I think, 3 or 4 amateur fights, and wasn't what for them. Boxing is not for everybody. You kind of got to be a
Right.
certain type, born a certain way to be a boxer. Not a bad thing.
Right.
Just a little different.
Yes, absolutely. Now, did they follow you into the gym, or did you, as the younger brother, follow them into the gym?
So that's another part on a lot of this. I don't know if there's enough time to get it all in, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess part of going back to the part with the martial arts, the martial arts, me growing up at that time, you had Kid, which was big, and all those
Yes.
martial art movies were coming out.
Yes.
We had like, I'm sure you know,
Yep.
Bloodsport, Jean Claude Van Damme,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and all those kickboxers, and
Chuck Norris,
so,
Bruce Lee. Yep.
well, yeah. hmm What
Yeah.
was that one? No retreat, no surrender, or I think
Yes. Yeah.
things like that. So I really got into those, and that's why I would run around the house throwing kicks and stuff like that. And I ended up going to the martial arts studio. We didn't work out, but all in that process of that happening, my buddy Louis Alessio, he lived right across the street from me, and in the city, like the houses, you could like spit out your window and hit the next house.
Right.
So
Right.
he was literally a little toss away from us. So I always, being the younger, I was 6 years younger than my oldest brother Michael,
Hmm.
5 years younger than Louis, and then like 4 years younger than my brother Ricky.
Okay.
So they would, and Louis's dad, Louis had an older brother that would have been my dad's age. So his dad was kind of like the old school who, he fought in the 40s and the late 30s. So he had those old boxing gloves, the old raggedy ones from like the 30s, and we used to go in the backyard and we get the old school cooking timers that you could set, and we try to reenact real fights. I mean, we find Vaseline if there was any around, or anything that looked like Vaseline,
Right.
put it on our face, and we take that timer, and we would go beat the crap out of each other. And I was a young baby, and I was in there, going against them,
Right.
and my brothers ended up eventually going to the boxing gym from there, and that's what got them kind of to go to the gym. So I kept tugging at my dad, and I kept saying, "Dad, how come my brothers get to go? How come I can't go?" And he's like, "Kelly, you're 7 years old. You're 8 years old. You're 9 years old. Like, no." And they didn't want me boxing. They really didn't. And
Wow.
then finally, after the martial arts, my dad took me to the gym, just to get it over with. And it was the
Right.
greatest thing in the world, because the story that a lot of people don't know is when I went to the gym for the first time. Actually, my mom took me. Um, Jack wasn't there, and there was only one guy in the gym, and that guy happened to be Harry Arroyo, the IBF lightweight champ.
Oh,
And yeah, it was pretty cool. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything of boxing. I watched, Tyson fight and guys like that. I loved watching Mike Tyson. And when we left, my mom goes, "You know who that was?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea." And she's like, "That was Mike Tyson, or not Mike Tyson, Harry Arroyo." And it was just so cool to be able to see that. And um, yeah, so we were in that, and they were. I was kind of like over and over banging my dad, so he took me. And long story short, I think after 2 weeks of being at the gym, Jack put me in there as a kid to spar, and I got my butt whooped really bad. and,
wow.
and my dad was happy about that, because him and my mom, because they thought that I would not want to box anymore. I was done. Well, little did he know, the next day I went to school, and I came home from school, and I got my clothes put on and everything else. And my dad goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going back to the gym to whoop that kid's butt." And that's where it all started. I fell in love with it. And I did. The next time I sparred that kid, I got the better of him.
Right.
It was like a couple weeks later, and I got into him. And I think that's where I was too young to tell, but I think that's where like my dad and Jack seen that I was able to turn it around that quick,
Right.
to be able to do that at such a young age. And you know, that's kind of where it all came from.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, I want to get into more of the things, a lot of the things you're doing right now. You mentioned some of it with the gyms and what you plan on doing with the scholarships for the kids, but I just wanted to talk about a little bit about your career. I remember watching the Miranda fight, and Edison Miranda was kind of like a bully fighter, in my opinion. Had that kind of mystique, and I remember being shocked watching that fight when I watched you walk him down and make him
Mm-hmm.
fall backwards. That's really when I became a fan of the Ghost right there. you sold me on that fight, and then of course later on what you did to Jermaine Taylor. But um, tell me, out of all of your fights, who was one of the hardest punches you ever faced?
The man you just mentioned, Miranda.
Miranda.
Yeah, by
Miranda.
far.
He had a
Yep.
lot of pop.
Oh yeah, and what's
So
funny about that, and that's
mhm.
great that you brought that up. Miranda at the time, in boxing, when somebody goes in like how I beat Miranda, his I shouldn't say legacy, but like his everything about him, it kind of goes out the window.
Yes,
They're just soon to forget, and people forgot the fact that Edison Miranda, when I was going in to fight him, was like the monster of the middleweight division. More
absolutely.
so, they had him more so of more of a monster than they have Triple G today.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know, yeah, and he went over. He fought Arthur Abraham, who got the belt from when Jermaine Taylor vacated. And I'm not knocking Abraham. He was a tough guy to fight.
Yeah,
He's a type fighter that anybody would hate to fight because he was just a short tank. Like
right,
strong. Um, but Edison Miranda went over there. I mean, he broke his jaw in how many different places and,
right,
and just beat him up, and he got points taken off him. Some of them were low, and I think in the United States would have been just a couple warnings
right.
or a point, but not to the point what they did. And so he beat Alan Green. So Edison Miranda was known as this brutal guy, and I remember even in most of the media, they weren't giving me a chance in hell.
Nobody was picking you, Kelly. Nobody
Yeah,
was picking you.
yep. And I remember even at the press conference, um, he got up to the podium and he was speaking in Spanish, and the translator was repeating what he was saying, and there was nothing about fighting me. It was all about fighting Jermaine Taylor. And
Right.
then Jermaine Taylor got up after, and he was talking about Spinks. I think, yeah, he fought Spinks that fight. He's talking about Spinks, and he went from after he beat Spinks, he's going to beat Miranda. I turned around, I looked at my dad and Jack, and I was like, "Am I even fighting tomorrow?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't heard my name one time in all this,
Right.
and I had a hell of a knockout record going in. I
Right.
was hot off the HBO knocking out Zartucci, which Zartucci was a dangerous fighter. And I'm not saying that he was a guy top 5 or top 7 at the time, but he was just a dangerous guy who was I wasn't supposed to knock out. He was supposed to be a guy for me to go get the rounds in on HBO and people see, and I end up taking out Zartucci.
Right.
So the Miranda fight, we knew of the reputation, but until you get in the ring with somebody, you don't know how hard they really hit.
Right.
So the whole time going into that fight was breaking down film, and I watched a lot, most of that, everything on that film, breaking it down, and I picked up where Miranda, he didn't fight good off that back foot. Not that most people would, but it
Right.
really took away the power. Miranda was dangerous if you were a guy who was trying to move away because he threw from all different angles,
Right.
and we didn't want to get hit with that. So our game plan, and it sounded crazy, was pretty much like put on your bulletproof vest because you're going in, you're taking bombs.
Right.
So, and that was pretty much what it was. But my theory was, okay, so I got to back him up, but can he take my shots? I was what, 25, 24 and 0 with like 21 or 22 knockouts.
Right.
So my knockout percentage was every bit as good as his, and that was the game plan for that fight. I always knew I was in good shape. I mean, even before that, I averaged low 90s to mid 90s punches per round. So conditioning going into later rounds, I always felt better. And that fight with Miranda, that's what the game plan was. And yeah, he hit everything. I mean, even his jab, when he hit you with it, you carried that for like 2 rounds.
Wow.
And but he hit out of all the guys, even the guys I sparred guys, ex-pro fighters and just great sparring guys that were a lot bigger, and nobody hit like Miranda.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. So Miranda, even harder than Jermaine Taylor.
Yeah, and then let me tell you, a lot of people knocked Jermaine on his power. Jermaine was a big guy. Jermaine was my height. He was 6'1", 6'1" and
Yeah.
a half. You see how physically fit Jermaine was. Jermaine hit. Don't get me wrong, and I understand people. When I tell people Miranda and Jermaine dropped me, they think I'm crazy. But I got hit. Where I got hit, anybody could probably drop somebody. It was a perfect equilibrium shot where you caught
Right.
me at. Um, But overall, yeah, Miranda hit harder than Jermaine.
Wow. Yeah. And both of them, I mean, we talked about how Miranda was such a beast. I mean, such a feared fighter at that time before you beat him. Taylor was the same. I mean, he was the same as well.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
You
this because I
shook up
beat.
the world on that one too as well. With
Yeah,
that,
and I'm not saying this because I beat Jermaine twice.
yeah,
Jermaine didn't get the credit, and I do feel bad about that. He did not get the credit he deserved either, and I can be 100% honest.
that's true.
Um, he beat Hopkins twice.
Yes,
He was an Olympic bronze medalist. He beat a lot of good fighters coming up. I mean, easily beat them. And he ran into some guys who were junior middleweights, and he was getting hell for that. And I could tell you right now, then if you're going to give Taylor hell for fighting some guys that were junior middleweights, then we got to go back to some of the all-time greats who fought guys that won world titles at lightweight and came up to middleweight and had a
right,
go. You know what I mean?
right,
We got to be
true,
honest. We really have to break it down. So
right.
Jermaine, he fought Kasim Uma. Kasim Uma is just a hard guy to
Oh,
fight.
yes,
You know,
yes,
he's a guy who throws probably close to 100 punches around from all
yes.
different angles, awkward. Nobody would really look good fighting Kasim Uma. You
That's
had
true.
Winky Wright.
Winky Wright,
Yeah,
great fighter.
yep. I mean, and there's a guy, no matter if he was 60 years old, he may still go in the ring and make you look bad. You know,
Right,
it was just his defense, his peekaboo style. He
right,
punched, his main goal was to offset what you were doing. So even in the middle of one of your combos, Winky Wright was a master at throwing you off on that. So
right.
to be fair, I mean, there were some bad matchups that if I was his handlers, I wouldn't have put back to back like that. And
Right.
Jermaine was taking some heat. If you watch the countdowns to our fight, he had a lot of animosity, and then rightfully so. I would too if I was him.
Right.
Um, Jermaine was a great fighter. Look what he did after I fought him. Okay,
Right.
he lost, but he fought Carl Froch. He was beating Carl Froch. I mean, I had him so far ahead that last round.
Me too.
If he would have just took a knee in that last one more knee
Right.
and survived, I had him far enough on points that he could have won that fight.
He was dominating most of
Yeah,
that fight. Yeah.
Arthur Abraham
Yeah.
dominating Arthur Abraham for two up until the very last round. Got caught, and then he went on to win a world title. He beat Sam Sullivan, who's an awkward fighter. He beat Jeff Lacey. Um,
Yeah.
Jeff Lacey may not have been Jeff Lacey at that point, but you can't discredit the guy. I mean, he was a hell of a fighter. He was
Yes, he was.
so, yeah. But so it was a big win against Jermaine. He was a big, strong middleweight.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He was. Um, now, Kelly, a lot of people throw around this term of humble guys, humble fighters. They speak of. I'm not going to name any people, but they have people where they point to as humble. But when I think of humble, a lot of times your name comes up in my mind as well because you carry the way you carry yourself. It's not so much that you're doing. A lot of other guys they do stuff in front of the cameras, but
Yeah.
what um comes what makes you such a humble fighter, such a humble person, period? Is it your background? What is it?
I
A
don't
lot of
know.
guys some you got a lot of flashier guys in boxing, whereas you've never been that guy.
Yeah, it's boxing is a business too. It is, and a lot of guys that are flashy are not flashy people. It's their way of marketing themselves.
Show.
But me being humble, I think it was something that I was just born with. And to be honest with you, again, like I said, I don't know if you ever heard my podcast. We're pretty brutally honest sometimes. Honor me, my co-host, but I think that actually being humble like I am, it kind of hurt me too. I truly do. Um, I don't know. After I won the world title, I got it home, and the next day I got up and I had my sweat clothes on, and I went to Walmart to shop, and I got hell for that. You know what I mean? People were like, "What are you going to Walmart for?" And that's just the way I was, man. I was just never. I didn't care. I always wanted to be like everyone else. I
Right.
did not put myself, and I think that's what hurt me because if you go back and you watch the count, actually, matter of fact, this is where people know I'm not lying. you watch the countdown to Jermaine Taylor won, which you can probably find on YouTube.
Mhm.
People love the fact that I played darts. I was in a dart league
Right.
in the city of Youngstown, and you hear guys say like, "Yeah, Kelly's just like us. You know, he don't think he's better than us, and he'll come in and he'll throw darts."
Right.
And then after I won the world title, it was kind of like I could even see the eyes. I'd walk in between fights to go throw darts, and people were like, "What are you doing here?" You
Right.
know what I mean? So in other words, like the more successful you are, the less you could do.
Right.
And yeah, and if I wouldn't have, and if I would have moved out of the city or to LA, I would have got known as the person who thought he was too good for everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
A
Yeah.
lot of these athletes can't win for losing,
You can't win it. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's just not boxing. It's every sport. I mean, it's sad, but yeah, I think that's where it kind of hurt me. And you know, I stayed home. I stayed a little too much out in the public eye, and because I was just a humble guy, and I never thought of, even to this day, I could still move. I could go live in California. I could go down to Naples, Florida. Uh, but I like being home. And secondly, my kids got huge family. They love being around their cousins. But that's just the
Right.
way I am. I think that started. You know, I think I was born with that. Some people were born where they want the attention and the spotlight all the time, and I was the type. You know, I've done numerous, and I'm saying this not to get any applause or anything, but
Right.
I can't even. I would have to say a couple thousand charity events I've done, and I would say 99.9% of those charity events have always been under the radar. I
Yeah.
didn't want nobody knowing, or even though sometimes I was probably better off putting it out there or publicizing it because it could have probably got more people there and raised more money for the charity.
Right.
But I just felt, if I couldn't get enough people, then we'll just do another one and do another one. And that's what I kind of done, even when I was world champion, starting at world champion, I've been involved in always donating or helping or running a charity for people to donate. And I always try to keep that under the radar because it's just the way I am.
Right. Yeah. I truly believe that, and that's why I said your name comes up in my mind as a humble guy, because I'm aware of your philanthropy that you do outside of, since you've ended your career and everything, and even while you were in your career, you did a lot of things like that. And it, like you said, it wasn't broadcast so much like you see a lot of other people do, but you got these gyms going, you got these the plans for the scholarship for your 501c3 for boxers coming up. Have you started training fighters yet? How many fighters are you training, if you have?
Actually, it's man, I'm getting people wanting to come. I got a 10-year-old little girl right now. I got a
Okay.
kid by the name of Vic Tony. He's I think he's 4-1-1 or 5-0. I've had him now for 2 weeks. Good fighter. Just needs some handling and some work. He picked up a couple bad habits, but it's nothing that we can't work on repetitiously to break him
Right.
of. Uh, so I'm working with him, and there's a handful that want to come, but I'm doing it. So the back of my fitness gym, which is a weightlifting, cardio, regular like fitness gym,
Yes.
but I opened it back up for like functional training. So where people want to do sledgehammer, tire flip, jump rope,
Right.
all that type of stuff. But I put a punching bag too, and I was doing some boxer size classes, and I got hand pads. So when I told them, they were like, "We don't care, just train us," and I was like, "All right." So I do a little bit out of here now with guys, like with that Vic Tony and that little girl. But I definitely prefer a boxing gym.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't want to keep you up too much, take too much of your time.
Oh,
I
that's right.
definitely appreciate you coming on. Let everybody know some of the things again. I know you mentioned some of them, but where they can find you, your podcast, mention your podcast, how they can get with you.
Podcast right now is on break due to Corona, because the format of the show, me and my co-host, we sit right next to each other and everything. And I know I'm in a gym, but I like I said, I keep myself as clean, I guess, as I could say, far away, as safe
Yes.
as I can. Um, but it's the punchline.live. If they go to that, they could pull up all of our past shows. We've had a lot of shows right now. We've been on 2 years. So punchline.live, that'll take you to our home and you can pull up the past episodes. We are the Punchline with Kelly Pavlik and James Dominguez. That's the name of the show. We're on Facebook. We have a boxing group on, or a fight page on Facebook. And they could also tune in on Facebook Live by searching for the Punchline with Kelly Pavlik and James Dominguez.
Okay. Sounds good. That sounds good. Well, champ.
And they'll love it because the format, we kind of screwed up on that, but we didn't. We've had guys like Terrence Crawford, Mikey Garcia. We had them as guests on the show, and we actually lost viewers when we did that because the format, like when you first watch the show, you may go, what the hell is this? Because our faces are planted in our phones. But the format of it was where the listeners, they could type in their questions or like their opinions or whatever their topic is about. And sometimes we even let the fans start off with the topic, and we're constantly replying back to questions and comments. And when we bring guests on and people can't do that, they actually get mad. They don't watch. So
okay,
it's pretty cool. I think I like the format. It's more. It involves the listeners more, but
more interactive with the fan.
Yeah, it keeps us busy. You don't see our face much, but you'll recognize the top of the head.
Okay. I'm gonna be listening for sure, and I'm sure a lot of our fans will, man. So we thank you, Kelly, for coming on. I wish you the best of luck with all of the things you got planned. I look forward to seeing the growth of it and seeing possible you coaching the next champion out of Youngstown.
Awesome, man. I do. I appreciate it, and thank you. It was a great interview, man. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed it as well.